60% of public school children in the state of Arizona today are minorities. That complicates racial integration because there aren't enough white kids to go around. When you look at that 60% number for our public school students, just carry that forward 10 years, 15 years. It's going to change the demographic voting base of this state, and that's what's going on around the country. Immigration is politically destabilizing. President Trump has talked about this. I'm very concerned about this. This immigration today represents an existential threat to the United States. If we don't do something about immigration, very, very soon, the demographics of our country will be irrevocably changed, and we will be a very different country. It will not be the country you were born into.
The border, the detention centers are far safer than the journey that these children just came on. And I will say this, you know, people aren't stupid. I spoke to some African Americans who say, gosh, the conditions of the detention center are better than some of the projects that I grew up in. People are looking at this and saying, let's not smear our border patrol. They're trying to do the best they can. These children were brought here under horrible, irresponsible circumstances.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live, back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, I know we're all starting to see the rise in violence when it comes to white supremacy and racism, and the dominant society is starting to step up their game. But the problem is, a lot of us are acting confused as if this is anything new. We're acting as if America hasn't always slaughtered our men, women, and children. I mean, they literally used our babies as alligator bait. But still, after hundreds of years, we act surprised, and we still want to go out and protest. The only time we should be marching and protesting in the streets is to pay homage to what our ancestors did. It's time for our generation to make our own contribution for the next generation after us. Thanks to our ancestors, this is the best time it's ever been for us in America. And yet black children can be harassed or murdered in the streets. In Pittsburgh, an unarmed young 17-year-old brother, Antwon Rose, was shot in the back 3 times by Pittsburgh Pd. Now let's see why the police would shoot an unarmed 17-year-old kid in the back as he runs away.
Why are they shooting at him? No, I'm recording this. Why are they shooting? All they did was run and they're shooting at them.
Large crowds of protesters blocked streets in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania yesterday, calling for change after an officer shot and killed an unarmed 17-year-old. Cell phone video appears to show Antwon Rose Jr. running from police on Tuesday night. 3 gunshots can be heard. Police say the video might not tell the whole story. Susan Copen of our Pittsburgh station KDKA is at East Pittsburgh Police Headquarters. Susan, good morning.
Good morning. This area was filled with demonstrators yesterday. The police officer involved in the shooting has not been identified, but we do know that he was new to the force and had just been sworn in. People in this community are outraged and looking for answers.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
Protesters filled the streets, at one point blocking a law enforcement vehicle. They're demanding answers in Tuesday night's fatal police shooting of Antwon Rose Jr., captured on cell phone video.
Why are they shooting at him?
Rose is seen in a light-colored T-shirt and appears to be running away from police. Rose was shot 3 times and died at a local hospital.
Still doesn't even feel real that he's gone.
Allegheny County Police Superintendent Coleman McDonough.
I understand in today's atmosphere, anytime a young man is killed, there's cause for outrage in some areas.
McDonough says the officer involved has been placed on administrative leave as they conduct an independent investigation.
I would urge people to give us time to conduct an objective investigation to gather facts.
McDonough says the vehicle Rose was in matched a car involved in a nearby drive-by shooting. One person in the car was detained and later released, and police say they found 2 firearms in the vehicle. But Rose was unarmed as he and another suspect ran away and the officer opened fire. Rose's uncle says he sees rage growing in his community amid reports the officer had just joined the force.
The police officers, I know they got a very hard job and everything, but you know what? You got to be fit for the job.
Superintendent McDonough says the police officers involved did not have body cameras, and there were no cameras in the police cars to capture this incident. There is another protest planned for later today, and that third suspect who fled from police is still on the loose. Gail?
Thank you, Susan. It's another upsetting story. I know they said, the video doesn't tell the whole story, but what we're seeing on the video is very disturbing, so I hope they tell the rest of it soon. And I think it's important to point out the officer charged with the shooting, he was new on that force, but he had worked, he was a veteran officer. He'd worked at other departments for 8 years, so I think it's important to point that out. Yeah. He was not a rookie on the job. Very upsetting story.
So, according to the police, they said they got a call about a drive-by shooting, and they believe the car the young brother Antwon Rose was in fit the description of the car involved in the shooting. So they pulled the car over, and as they were arresting the driver, Antwon Rose and another person took off running. So I guess a 17-year-old kid running away the opposite direction caused this cop to fear for his life and shoot him in the back 3 times. They didn't even try to say stop, freeze. The first thing they did was shoot. But they can also write laws that say, well, if somebody's running away, that also justifies shooting them. If somebody breaks into your house, you can't even shoot them in the back if they're running away. But of course, what's supposed to be a trained officer can get away with shooting a teenager in the back. Now the police are saying they're going to investigate themselves fairly before they decide not to press charges on themselves. But they're already doing what they can to defend themselves, saying they found 2 guns in the car and an empty clip in his pocket, as if that has anything to do with him getting shot in the back.
Why are they shooting at him?
Shock, outrage, and a lot of unanswered questions this afternoon after police shot and killed a teenage boy. It happened last night in East Pittsburgh. And this afternoon, we are learning new details about the victim and the investigation. Paul Martino is live at Allegheny County Police Headquarters with the latest. Paul?
Yeah, Allegheny County Police, Stacy, now investigating this one, trying to figure out how and why this happened and whether or not it was justified. 17-year-old Antwon Rose, fleeing from East Pittsburgh police, shot 3 times in the back. Now, how did this happen? Police say Rose may have been involved in another shooting just moments before they tracked him down.
Antwon Rose is one of several Woodland Hills High School students shot and killed in recent years. On Wednesday, Allegheny County Police were dealing with some difficult questions on how and why it happened.
I understand in today's atmosphere, anytime a young man is killed, there's cause for outrage in some areas.
Rose was a passenger in a car suspected in a drive-by shooting moments earlier in North Braddock. East Pittsburgh police pulled the car over and handcuffed the driver. That's when they say Rose and another guy fled from the car. Dramatic cell phone video captured what happened next.
Why did they have to shoot when he's running away? Where is the justification in that? How was you scared when he's running away from you?
Now, county police say it's just too soon to say whether or not this shooting was justified. They're gathering information. They'll turn their findings over to the Allegheny County District Attorney, who will make the ultimate decision in this case. Police still looking for that other suspect who ran from the car. As for the driver at the scene, the guy they handcuffed at the scene, they questioned him and police released him without charging him. We are just now getting new information in about that East Pittsburgh police officer. We are told he had only been on the force just a couple of weeks, was just sworn into duty, although he apparently had law enforcement experience before coming to the East Pittsburgh force. As you can see, a very fluid story. Emotions are running high, police under pressure to determine exactly what happened here.
Now, the police and media are so quick to cape for these cops, they can't even get their story straight first. And they're putting out a lot of misinformation. The police had to put out a statement. They claim they had video evidence of Antwon Rose shooting a gun, and he had gun residue on his hands. The police had to admit that even though they did have a video, it didn't show Antwon Rose firing a gun. Because, you know, if they did have a video like that, that would be the first thing they put out. They also said the information about the gun residue was false. They haven't even got the test back yet. On top of that, they questioned the driver and found out he didn't have anything to do with the shooting. And the car they were in was basically used as a gypsy cab, and they don't know if the brother Antwon Rose was in it at the time or not. And they tried to protect the cop, Officer Michael Rosfeld. They eventually had to release his name.
We continue our coverage of today's headline story. A 17-year-old high school senior was shot and killed by police.
This happened last night in East Pittsburgh, and there are a lot of questions this evening, including whether the shooting was justified and who will make that determination. John Delano found some answers and has them. New at 6.
When a police officer shoots someone, even if they've been involved in a crime in a neighboring community, as has been alleged here, Allegheny County homicide detectives step in.
In accordance with police best practices in the aftermath of officer-involved shootings, Allegheny County Police Department homicide detectives were requested to assume the role of independent investigatory agency.
But it's really up to District Attorney Stephen Zappala to determine whether the shooting of Antwon Rose was justified or not.
That officer has the same rights as any other citizen.
Sources tell me that the East Pittsburgh officer in his 20s has been on duty in East Pittsburgh for just 3 weeks and was sworn in about 90 minutes before the actual shooting, although he's been an officer since 2011.
What I think the community is reacting to right now is a horrible video showing that a young man who absconded from a traffic stop was shot in the back by a police officer.
Beth Pittenger with the City Police Review Board, which has no jurisdiction in this case, says there are lots of unanswered questions.
We have to have the patience to allow the Allegheny County homicide detectives to do their job.
State law allows deadly force in an arrest only when the officer believes such force is necessary to prevent death or serious bodily injury to himself or others, or when force is necessary to prevent an escape and the person to be arrested has committed a forcible felony, or he's attempting to escape and possesses a deadly weapon, or he will endanger others if not arrested right away.
As the investigation progresses, we'll provide the District Attorney's Office with our findings for his review.
No word on how long that will take.
Now, on his first day on the job, Officer Michael Rosfeld shot a 17-year-old unarmed kid in the back while he was running away. Now, while the media did say he was a cop before, they neglected to mention what happened at his last job. They found out as much dirt on this 17-year-old kid as they could, but didn't say a word about the cop's history. It turns out he was fired earlier in the year for falsifying reports and for violence. But as usual, they get fired or resign from one job for whatever reason and get hired right away at another department. And they get put right back on the street. Now here we are still crying and begging for justice. And they're giving us the same old lines. Well, let us get all the facts first. Let us do the investigation before you say anything. After our blood is shed, then they call for peace. And after all this time, we still act surprised. Like we don't know they're doing this on purpose. People say Trump is to blame for this rise in racism. But this has been around long before Trump. And we have to accept the fact that we are still in war. It's been hundreds of years and we still act confused. But every so often, the white supremacist extremists have a spike in violence. And they're doing it to send a message. But we definitely are different from the generations before us. And we have to adapt that American mentality of give me liberty or give me death. They have no problem killing you if you're unarmed running away. So you might as well be armed working together to protect each other. Because they'll think twice about coming into a neighborhood whether people are armed and there to protect the children especially, but protect everybody. We have to realize no matter what we do, they're going to come for us, especially when we're talking about unity or empowering ourselves. They're going to go out of their way to try to destroy it. But we have to respond with more urgency than they do in order to protect ourselves. If we don't, they'll continue to hunt black men down and violate black women and harass black children. But if we don't put aside our tribalisms and whatever gender wars we have, then we're going to be stuck in the same situation.
For the third night in a row, hundreds of people protesting the police shooting death of Antwon Rose. They have taken over the streets and blocked traffic. Hundreds of people rallying on Pittsburgh's north side near PNC Park and Heinz Field. David Highfield is joining us live from that location with the very latest. David.
Yeah, Susan, you were asking me before about Pirates fans being able to leave the game, and you might be able to see there are some Pirates fans trickling around here, trickling around the protest. Now, getting to their cars and getting their cars out of here will be a bit more difficult. You can also see there's a charter bus right over here that has been waiting right here on West General Robinson. He's not going anywhere at this point because this whole intersection is blocked. Take a look at it. This is West General Robinson and Tony Dorsett Drive, and this has been blocked like this since before 11 o'clock. And in fact, right before 11 o'clock, a car came through this line of protesters that blocked traffic. Take a look at the protesters now. And all right, we have video of the car. And you can see this car went through a line of protesters, and you can hear people either hitting the car or banging on the car or being hit by the car as this car made its way through. And people started screaming at that point, and that's when the police, who had been keeping a much farther watch, they had a close watch on everything, but they had a farther distance away, they moved in. And you can see police officers here remain with helmets, with billy clubs out. They were in a very straight line, very close to the protesters, and they backed up just a little bit after protesters backed up a little bit. But you can see the protesters continue to chant here. Some of them are arm in arm. They're chanting, you see the folks in the front of the line, they're arm in arm. They're chanting Black Lives Matter, and they're not going anywhere. They're blocking this intersection, and their goal all night has been to create a disturbance. Their goal has been to get attention for their cause. And I will say, for the most part, what we have seen this evening, things have been peaceful. And in fact, we've not seen police have to move in at all. At one point, as I said earlier, it appeared that the protesters might try to shut down Route 28. And so they did shut down the entrance ramps to Route 28, and police, reacting to that, also shut down entrance ramps so that no drivers would get stuck on Route 28. But it turns out they did not shut down Route 28, not the way they shut down the Parkway last night. Instead, they came back here to PNC Park. The game was in extra innings. It's over now, but they were waiting for that game to end, and now they remain here in this intersection, and police remain here as well. Although, as I say, the situation is eased a little bit from where it was right at the top of this newscast at 11 o'clock, right after that car came through. Now, we're going to remain here. Any new developments, Susan, we will break in again and show them to you immediately. But for now, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, David, watching that video of the car going through the crowd, we could see that barricades were knocked over as folks were chasing that car and punching and kicking the car as it went by, and someone chasing the car falling to the ground. But David reported earlier that as far as he could see from that scene, nobody was physically injured there.
My heart is really heavy right now. There has been public outcries and protests in my city, in my county, and I can't continue to pretend that the lives that we are so casual about in this continual epidemic is normal. It's not a normal day anymore for me. And what I realized as a parent of 3, the hardest thing that one could ever receive is a call that your young one will not ever return back. And in this past week, we've celebrated Juneteenth, which was the Freedom Day and the recognition of independence of former enslaved people in this country. And on that same day, we lost a young, talented 17-year-old African-American male, Antwon Rose. And a day later, we lost an inspiring, up-and-coming African-American artist to street violence named Jimmy Walpole. Now, these are just two examples of stuff that happens all over this Commonwealth, all over in every city and borough, and all over this country. And both of them, I call them two tips of a very dangerous spear, and that is black-on-black crime and violence and black-on-blue crime and violence. And both of them need to be addressed and stopped because there are far too many wasted lives that are never reaching their full potential because of these things. And the fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, I think what we do here in this hall, in this Capitol, matters tremendously what happens on the ground with these things stopping. And it's not just a financial thing. It's a change in culture. It's a value set that lives matter no matter who they are and what race they come from and what community they come from. And we cannot casually keep closing our eyes and ears to the fact there is a group of people whose lives seemingly don't matter. And when I look at my 12-year-old, I look at my 6-year-old, my 3-year-old, I believe their lives is just as important as any other life. But every time they leave my house, I worry about if they're going to lose their life. Lose their life by somebody who looks like them or somebody who's afraid of what they think they are or will be. And so as we make these final decisions today, what I want to also encourage us to do is to look around our communities, question the fact that this system that we currently have isn't working for all of our citizens, that something really needs to change. The conversation itself needs to change. This is about life and death for a group of people who, for some reason, are dying and perishing at far too great a number than what they should be. And so I want to just, before we begin our work today, I had to get that off my chest because I'm at a point now, I'm a loss for words and actions, and I'm trying to keep myself together. Because when I leave up out of this building, I could be the next victim. And all I'm trying to challenge us to do is when we have these conversations, know that there is a problem in our Commonwealth, in our cities, in our boroughs, in our municipalities, and we can't be silent about it anymore.
From Lorain, Ohio this evening, a police officer has been fired after pulling over a car. Inside that car, his own daughter and her boyfriend. He puts the boyfriend in his patrol car, and you're about to hear what the officer then said to him. Here's ABC's Ariel Reshef tonight.
Tonight, the new dash cam video. An Ohio police officer pulling over his daughter's boyfriend.
You can get out. You're going to jail.
John Kovac now fired. His former department saying he abused his authority. The video from last month obtained by the Chronicle-Telegram showing the officer apparently threatening to fabricate charges.
Have a seat in my car. We'll make up as we go.
First, putting the boyfriend into his squad car.
Any guns, knives, weed on you? Go ahead, get smart. Before I can do something to you, even more.
The couple both protesting, saying they're 18. Kovac claiming his daughter was missing.
My daughter in there?
Then forcing her into the back seat.
Why are you taking me? You have to give me a reason. By law, why are you pushing me? Why are you pushing me? Why are you doing this?
Kovac driving away with his daughter yelling.
Let me out of the car.
The department saying Kovac's actions are not acceptable for members of our police department, and we felt it warranted immediate dismissal. Officer Kovac now appealing the decision to fire him. And David, Kovac was a 26-year veteran of the force. Police say they've now handed this incident over to the county prosecutor for review.
A St. Petersburg police officer off the job now, admitting to using a racial slur after he was caught on camera doing it. ABC Action News reporter Michael Paluska tonight with the new reaction from the man at the center of this video and what he's now saying about the police department.
That's all.
Unfortunately, this is something we prepare ourselves for growing up as black kids or minorities in certain areas.
Levante Daniels says he wanted us to know the entire backstory of what happened last night because he says that is what led to this video and probationary officer Michael Naples resigning. Around 10 p.m. Monday night, Daniels called 911 after he says a pizza delivery lady tried to hit him with her car.
I grabbed a fire extinguisher. I was scared.
He says the driver was white, so was Officer Naples, and he felt that they didn't believe him.
I said, but sir, I just want to let you know that this is not how this happened, and I want to have record of it. He told me, well, I'll put it all up here. This is what he told me.
Then came the profanity and racial slur.
Once I told him, you know, you're trying to railroad me, he said, yeah, well, you're a piece of And if you hear my reaction, I said, well, you're a piece of too. And then he said, well, you're a And that's how that played out.
Yeah, you heard, I got you on record.
This video evidence backs that. St. Pete Chief Anthony Holloway condemning the behavior, telling Naples to resign or be fired. Holloway telling us the pizza delivery driver was not cited.
He explained to Mr. Daniels what happened. Mr. Daniels then admitted to what happened. So again, one person said another thing, Mr. Daniels saying another thing.
Like, I feel like I was portrayed in a bad light. We're going to try and get something done about this driver who tried to hit me with her car, and we're going to try to get something done about the other two officers who lied and said I was prosecuting somebody and there's no paperwork to prove anything.
Hey, Mr. Samuel? Yeah. What caught my attention was this vegetation stuff right here.
That ain't got nothing. What is your vegetation? Let me see that. What? That's tree stuff, man. Test it. That gotta be from the tree, man. Y'all put me off from.
All right, hold on just a minute. Let me put this in the bag real quick.
Yeah, man. What are you? Man, that's from a tree, man. I don't even smoke. This man said vegetation on a car window. Alright, I know y'all seen that. This man picked vegetation. Sir, you walked up to my car and said you pulled me over. What was the original reason you said you pulled me over?
I already explained it to you.
You told me because I failed to turn.
Step on it for me.
Sir, do you have a reason for me?
I got the vegetation in the window.
That's from the tree, sir. I don't even smoke.
Okay, I'll test it here in a little bit, okay?
No, you gotta test it right now.
I ain't gotta test it right now. I need you to step up for me.
Step out for what? Sir, no. Facebook, y'all see that, right?
Facebook, you are. Relax. You're being detained.
For what? For what?
For I can search the vehicle.
You have to have a reason to search the vehicle.
You got that vegetation in your window.
Who has vegetation on the window sill?
Relax.
Sir, who has vegetation on the window sill? Who has that? Please tell me who has vegetation. You gotta have permission. I'll give no permission, no consent to search my vehicle. You have to test that before you can search my vehicle. My uncle